Zespri's RubyRed Kiwifruit growers are working hard to meet demand from their traditional markets, such as China and Japan, as well as increasing interest across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. It's taken years of collaborative research and development into the plants themselves, as well as grower practices, post-harvest protocols and consumer preferences.
As a company, we're led by our markets, so we want to give the markets what they want because that's what's going to create value for growers and allow us to build demand in the market. So we're always looking for new and exciting things. The innovation program will look at, how do we help growers on orchard, getting higher yields, how do we work through the supply chain, for example, getting more fruit to market, but then how do we give consumers what they want, what excites them, what enthuses them, and ultimately what's going to get them buying more Zespri kiwifruit. And having that category, so we have the gold kiwifruit, incredibly popular, we have the green kiwifruit, incredibly popular also and a mainstay of diets for a long time, and then now we have the red. So it gives us that portfolio, it gives us shelf space, it allows us to create interest in the category, and it brings real excitement to the kiwifruit category. We think we'll have about twice what we did last year, so 1.5 million trays last year, about 3 million this year. A tray's about 3.5 kilos. It's really exciting because red is the first variety that we harvest, so the red colour seems to really draw people in and really attract them to it. And then obviously, they know that kiwifruit's incredibly good for you and it tastes really good. So it's generally, it's really helping us to build consumer awareness and excitement around kiwifruit. We have the world's largest kiwifruit breeding program. The breeding program looks at on orchard, so what is agronomic for growers, what grows at higher yields with fewer orchard inputs, because we know growers are dealing with cost pressures. What sort of varieties can we give them that perform better on orchard? Also through the supply chain, we've got to get the fruit around the world. So it's got to store well, it's got to be able to get through the supply chain well, and then in the market. So what is going to attract new consumers to the category, create excitement, and ultimately get more consumers willing to buy kiwifruit. And that's really what's going to create the most value for growers.
Our RubyRed research at Plant and Food Research is all designed to help Zespri meet the demand of the orchardist, the growers and the consumers. And the particular things we're interested in are the demand for larger fruit, obviously high quality fruit and increased yield. There are two aspects to our research. One is a much more fundamental approach where we're actually looking at the plant physiological mechanisms of how the vines produce flowers, how they produce fruit, and what actually affects the fruit size, growth, quality, etc. And then secondly, we take this knowledge and then we take it into our research orchards where we look at developing tools and systems that we hope we can then pass on to the growers to supply what they need. Of course, this isn't just a one-way thing, and there's a lot of very smart, innovative growers out there. So we spend a lot of time talking and observing our growers, looking at what they're doing, and then bring their ideas back into the orchard as well, where we can test these systems, test this management, and actually put some science rigor around it to find out what works and what doesn't, and recycle it back out. Kiwi fruit research requires a multi-year approach, as what happens in the previous year will affect the success of the vines in that second year. Our findings from our lab work are now brought out to the orchard, and some of the things we're particularly interested in are the impact of the commercial rootstocks and how that might affect flower number, how that might affect fruit size, harvest time, and disease susceptibility of our RubyRed.
So this was one of the first pre-commercial blocks in the industry, so it was one of the first RubyRed blocks that was grafted. There was a handful of us in 2015 that were lucky enough to be given the opportunity to graft over. So this is one of the historical blocks of RubyRed. The last 10 years, the amount of science that has gone into trying to keep getting better and better every year has been huge. I'd hate to think how much money's been spent, but it's really starting to pay off now, I think, as we start getting the rewards.
A lot of our work has been looking at flower quality and then how that translates into the fruit quality throughout the season. We've looked quite in depth at the effects of the timing of flowering, so really early flowers generally produce larger fruit and later flowers generally produce much smaller fruit. It's linking what we see in the lab back to what's going on in the orchard, whether that's down to flower quality or with canopy management manipulations, whether those are affecting the fruit at the cellular level. So we're using stains to highlight the cell walls in the fruit. That's what you can see here in the blue. And what you can see in the red is actually the natural pigments that give the red kiwifruit their red colour. The cell structure in the fruit determines a lot of things like the dry matter, the sweetness, the taste and the texture. So by taking a closer look at that and seeing if any treatments are affecting that, we'll know that the fruit flavour and texture is being affected. We know that there are certain proportions of cells in the fruit that give better taste experiences. So by quantifying the types of different cells in the fruit, we're able to sort of get another way of measuring those quantitatively rather than subjectively through tasting panels.
It's been a bit of a journey since 2015. One of the reasons why, I love being a trialist is the challenge of learning to grow new varieties. And we've made huge gains in the last 10 years. This season's looking, fantastic, to be honest. Every year we seem to make small improvements, and I think we've made some real gains on both production and size, which has been a real work on, especially around fruit size. And it's looking really positive.